If you sign this contract, my garage, my wife's memory, my kid's home, everything is gone. If you don't, 200 of your people lose their jobs. So tell me, Claire, who do you let burn first?
At the moment he said that, standing in the center of his small, oil-stained garage, Jordan Cole had no idea that everything started with a dead car, a blind date he didn't want, and a woman who walked into his life in the middle of a storm. A few weeks earlier, the only thing on Jordan's mind was getting his 8-year-old daughter home before the rain came down too hard. He was easy to spot even at a distance. Tall, dark brown skin gleaming with sweat, grease smeared across his forearms, neon vest thrown over a faded black t-shirt. A black single dad working a small garage under an old shop house in the middle of Singapore, trying to keep the lights on and a roof over his daughter's head. Above the garage, in a cramped loft apartment that always smelled faintly of engine oil and instant noodles, his whole world slept and woke and laughed. His little girl, Mia, and the memory of his wife, Naomi. The sign outside still read, Jordan and Naomi Garage. The paint was peeling, rust chewed at the edges. He could have taken her name down after she died. He never did. Every morning he would glance at that sign on his way to roll open the metal shutter. It was like a promise, whispered to himself more than to anyone else. I'm still here. I'm still holding this together. For Naomi. For Mia. Inside, the garage looked like organized chaos. Tools everywhere, but always exactly where he needed them. Cars in various stages of repair, a cheap radio playing soft R&B in the corner. Rainy season meant more work, more breakdowns, more long nights. It also meant more nights where he had to choose, finish this last car and get paid, or close early and make sure Mia had someone to tuck her in. He was still thinking about that when his phone buzzed on the workbench. Don't forget tonight, the message read. Rainy Bean Cafe, 7 p.m. You agreed, Jay. He frowned. It was from his friend's wife, the mastermind behind this whole blind date thing. Jordan wiped his hands on a rag and stared at the screen. A blind date at 7. With some woman who needed to meet a good guy, whatever that meant. Hey, Jay, a customer called. You can check the brakes, too? Yeah, I got you, he muttered, shoving the phone back in his pocket. He hadn't dated seriously since Naomi. People looked at him. Tall, black man, arms thick from lifting engines, tattoos half hidden under his sleeves, a little girl hanging off his leg. And they saw baggage. They saw trouble. They didn't see what he was trying to be. A good dad, a steady man, a safe place. And honestly, he'd rather be exhausted and alone than let someone walk in and walk out of Mia's life again. Upstairs, he could already imagine Mia sitting at the tiny table, kicking her legs, waiting for him with that serious little face. Daddy, are we moving again? She had asked once when they got a warning letter about rent going up. He'd felt that question like a knife. When he was a kid, his family moved every time the landlord wanted something new. A mall, a condo, a better tenant. He had promised himself, my daughter will not live like that. I won't let anyone take this place from us, he whispered to the empty garage now, more to convince himself than anything. He checked the time. If he rushed, he could finish this car, shower, feed Mia, and still make that stupid blind date. Probably. Across the city, in a high-rise apartment with floor-to-ceiling glass and 2 white walls, Claire Nguyen was losing a battle with her closet. This is ridiculous, she muttered, tossing another dress on the bed. On paper, Claire had it together. Vietnamese-American, designer and co-founder of a sustainable interior brand called Lumi Home, featured on design blogs and startup panels, the whole perfectly curated life. In reality, she was one bad quarter away from seeing everything she'd built disappear, and her best friend had decided that what she needed in the middle of all that was to meet a nice guy. A black single dad, her friend had said, eyes shining over coffee. He runs a garage, he's sweet, rough around the edges, the real deal. You need someone real. Claire had laughed it off, then somehow said yes. Now she was late, and the sky outside her windows had turned that heavy, dark gray that meant the city was about to disappear behind a sheet of rain. She finally pulled on a simple black dress, grabbed her leather jacket and her bag. As she zipped it up, her fingers brushed against a smooth, worn piece of wood at the bottom. Her father's measuring stick. He'd used it his whole life as a carpenter, building small cabinets, fixing doors, patching together old homes. He died before he could see Lumi home become anything more than a sketch in her notebook. "You're building houses in your own way," he once told her when she showed him her early designs. "Not just places to sleep, places to belong." That word hit her differently these days, because Lumi home was hanging by a thread. 2 weeks. That's what the investors had given her. 2 weeks to lock in a location for a flagship store so they could open before Lunar New Year. 2 weeks to prove she wasn't just some pretty brand on Instagram. The location they were pushing? An old row of shop houses on River Lane. Prime spot. Crazy traffic. Underused potential, as her co-founder Kevin liked to say. Underused, meaning tear everything down. Build something new. Forget the people already there. Claire shoved the measuring stick back into her bag and grabbed her keys. She didn't have the emotional space for that tonight. Tonight was about pretending she was someone whose life wasn't falling apart. Rain hit the glass as she stepped into the elevator. By the time she reached the bridge leading into the quieter part of the city, the rain had gone from drizzle to downpour. "Come on," she whispered, leaning forward over the wheel. Her windshield wipers slapped back and forth, but it wasn't enough. Water blurred the road, headlights became streaks, and the city turned into a hazy watercolor painting. Then her car jerked. The engine coughed. "Don't you dare," she breathed. The dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree. The car shuddered once, twice, and died in the middle of the narrow bridge. "Seriously?" Claire hit the steering wheel, half laughing, half about to scream. "Not now! Not tonight!" Cars behind her honked. One swerved around. Another driver threw up a hand in frustration. She turned on the hazard lights, heart pounding. Getting out in this rain felt like asking to be swept off the bridge. Her phone buzzed. A text from her friend. "You're on your way, right? He's actually coming. Don't bail." Claire let out a dry laugh. "Yeah, about that." Headlights flooded her rearview mirror. A small white utility truck pulled up behind her, hazard lights flashing as well. The driver's door opened. A tall figure stepped out into the rain, tugging up the hood of a plastic poncho. He moved in that slow, steady way that said, "I do this all the time. No rush, no panic." He came up to her window and knocked lightly. Through streaks of water, she saw him. Dark brown skin glistening with rain, strong jaw, beard trimmed close, eyes soft but watchful. She cracked the window. "You okay?" His voice was deep, gentle, carried even over the rain. "Your car just gave up on you?" "It picked a dramatic moment," she said, half shouting through the gap. "I'm late." He smiled, quick and crooked. "Of course, cars know when you're late." He glanced at the hood. "Pop it open?" She hesitated for half a second. Stranger, dark night, storm. Then something about his presence steadied her. She hit the lever. He disappeared under the hood. Rain pounded. Cars hissed past. He worked fast, hands sure, moving wires, checking connections. The way he touched the car was almost gentle, like he wasn't just fixing metal, like he understood that this stupid machine was the thin line between her and a full-blown meltdown. He slammed the hood shut and leaned down again. "Okay," he said. "Starter's acting up, and your battery's not happy about it. I got it to wake up for now, but you need a proper check as soon as you can." She exhaled, relieved. "I owe you," she said. "Really. Thank you." "Jordan," he said, offering a damp, gloved hand through the small opening. I run a garage down by River Lane, not far from here. Claire, she replied, shaking his hand. And I run a life that's currently 20 minutes late. He laughed softly. You heading anywhere near Rainy Bean? He asked, almost casually. Little cafe down the river? Her eyebrows went up. Yeah, she said slowly. You know it. Yeah, he said. I'm supposed to be meeting someone there. Her heart did a weird little flip. Blind date? She blurted out before she could stop herself. His smile turned rueful, like he'd just been caught. Maybe, he admitted. For a second they just looked at each other, rain drumming on metal, the city blurring around them. Well, he said finally, stepping back, try it now, and take it straight to a garage after, preferably mine. She turned the key. The engine sputtered, then roared back to life. She looked up. He was already jogging back to his truck, waving off her attempt to offer money. See you at Rainy Bean, maybe, he called over his shoulder. Maybe, she murmured. Rainy Bean sat tucked at the corner of a narrow lane, with yellow light spilling from its windows like warmth itself. Inside, it smelled like coffee and sugar and something safe. Jordan got there first. He shook off his poncho, suddenly hyper-aware of his reflection in the cafe window. A tall black man in worn jeans and work boots, calloused hands, a tired face. There were days he felt like he stood out in this city in all the wrong ways. Naomi used to tease him, "You look like trouble until you smile. Then you just look like a big, soft marshmallow." He hadn't smiled like that in a long time. He checked his phone. A message from upstairs at the loft. Mia. Daddy, don't forget to eat. And don't let a stranger steal you. He smiled in spite of himself. He had told her about the blind date, half joking, half testing. Are you trying to replace Mommy? She'd asked quietly. He'd knelt down, looked her in the eyes. I could never replace Mommy, he said. And no one could replace you. This is just Daddy trying to remember how to talk to grown-ups. Okay, she'd said, serious. But if she doesn't like cars, she can't sit with us. He sent her a picture of the cake display now. Jordan. Still me, still free, no stealing yet. He had just put the phone away when the door opened and the rain followed someone in. She shook water from her hair, pushing it back from her face. Claire. For a second, both of them froze. You've got to be kidding me, she said, then laughed. The barista looked between them. Table for two? Jordan? Claire? She asked. Jordan let out a disbelieving breath. You're, he started. The one you were dreading, probably, Claire finished, hanging her jacket on the back of the chair. Hi. Again. They sat. The strangeness melted quicker than either of them expected. They ordered coffee, both black little sugar. They both complained about cafes playing music too loud. They traded fragments of life. He told her in pieces about Mia, how he'd fallen in love too young and never once regretted it, how Naomi's cancer had taken everything slowly, then all at once, how he'd held his daughter at the funeral and promised he'd never let her feel that kind of loss again if he could help it. She listened, fingers wrapped around her mug. You're doing this alone? She asked softly. No family here? I got a cousin, he said. She helps when she can. But most days it's just me and Mia. Garage downstairs, home upstairs. We're a package deal. He said it with the practiced ease of someone who'd had to say those words before, to women who smiled politely and then slowly backed away. Claire didn't look away. There's a strength in that, she said, in not running. He looked up, surprised. She told him about Lumi Home, about late nights and investors and too many emails. She didn't tell him, not yet, about the River Lane property or the shop houses they planned to buy out. He didn't tell her, not yet, that his garage sat under one of them. There are conversations where fate announces itself with violins and lightning. This wasn't that. It was quieter. Two tired people laughing a little too hard at dumb jokes, feeling something loosen in their chests. When they finally left, the rain had softened to a mist. He walked her to her car. "Bring your car by tomorrow," he said. "Let me actually fix the thing." She smiled. "Is this your mechanic voice or your flirting voice?" He thought about it. "Can't it be both?" he asked. She laughed, the sound bright in the damp night. "Tomorrow, then," she said. The next day, the rain came earlier. Claire pulled up in front of Jordan and Naomi garage, and for a second all the words blurred together. Garage, Jordan, Naomi. She parked, heart thudding. The building looked tired but solid. White paint faded, green shutters, the garage opening taking up most of the ground floor. Above, a small balcony with drying clothes and potted plants. Home. Jordan waved her in, wiping his hands on a rag. He looked different in daylight. More lines around his eyes, more grease on his arms, the same calm energy. "Brought the patient," she said, stepping out. "Good," he replied. "She was whining last night." He signaled to someone inside. A little girl peeked out from behind a toolbox. She had big brown eyes, wild curls pulled into a messy ponytail, and a t-shirt with cartoon planets on it. She studied Claire like she was a new type of car. "Mia," Jordan called gently. "Say hi." Mia walked forward, clutching a small notebook. "Hi," she said. "Are you the lady from the rain?" Claire smiled, a little caught off guard. "Yeah," she said. "I guess I am." Mia nodded, satisfied, then leaned toward her dad. "Does she like cars?" she whispered, not quietly at all. Jordan winced. Claire laughed. "I like cars," she said. "I just like them better when they work." That seemed to be the right answer. Mia relaxed. Claire followed Jordan into the garage while Mia settled at a small table with coloring pencils. The girl stole quick glances at her, like she was trying to decide where to put Claire in the story of her day. "Give me an hour," Jordan said, popping the hood. "You can wait upstairs if you want. Coffee's better up there than down here." Upstairs. The word made her chest tighten for reasons she couldn't fully name. "Sure," she said. He led her up the narrow stairs at the back, into the loft. Claire wasn't ready for how warm it felt. Not temperature warm, life warm. There was a small kitchen that looked like it fought bravely every night against the chaos of cooking. A couch that had seen better days but held a pile of brightly colored blankets. Picture frames on the wall. Naomi smiling, Mia as a baby, the three of them together. Jordan a little younger but with the same soft eyes when he looked at his family. Claire moved toward one photo, almost without thinking. Naomi was sitting on the hood of a car, legs swinging, head thrown back laughing. Jordan was leaning against the fender, looking up at her like there was nothing else in the world. Claire felt suddenly like an intruder. Her bag slipped on her shoulder. The flap fell open and a thick stack of papers slid out onto the coffee table. "Damn!" She dropped to her knees to gather them, but the top page was already staring back at her. River Lane Redevelopment Proposal, Property Acquisition Summary, Lot Numbers, Addresses. Her eyes caught one line and froze. Unit 12A, Ground Floor Garage and Second Floor Residential Loft. Owner, Jordan Cole and Naomi Cole. Her breath stuttered. She grabbed another page. Site photo. The angle was different, but there was no mistaking it. The same shophouse row, the same balcony, the faint curve of the Jordan and Naomi sign. Her throat went dry. Downstairs, the sound of a wrench hitting metal echoed faintly. A small voice spoke behind her. "Daddy says if they take this place, we'll have to move again," Mia said, standing in the doorway with her coloring book. "He doesn't want to move. I don't either. This is our house. Claire's fingers clenched around the papers. I see, she managed. Mia walked over, set her coloring book on the table. On the page, she had drawn a tall building with a garage on the bottom and two little figures standing in front of it. One big, one small, both smiling. She looked up at Claire with hopeful eyes. Daddy said once, maybe one day we can paint the outside, Mia said. Mia, make it pretty. Not just white, maybe blue or green. Something that looks like home. The word hit Claire like a punch. Home. River Lane wasn't just a location on her project plan. It wasn't just a number on a spreadsheet or an underused asset they could flip into a flagship. It was this: a black single dad fighting to keep the only stable home his daughter had ever known. For 2 days, Claire went through the motions at work like a ghost. Kevin paced in the Lumi home office, waving his tablet. River Lane is perfect, he insisted, dropping blueprints on her desk. We demo the existing shop houses, build upward, huge glass frontage. It's a flex, Claire. Investors love it. We signed the preliminary agreements already. We're just waiting on your final green light. She stared at the renderings. Sleek, modern, pristine. There was no sign of a garage. No Mia. No Naomi's name on a rusty sign. And the current tenants? She asked quietly. They're small fish, he said, shrugging. One garage, a couple of anti-shops. They'll get compensation and they'll move. That's how it works. Come on, you know this. The words made her stomach twist. When she was a kid, her family had been those small fish, forced out without a real choice so someone else could build something shinier. Her father carrying furniture down the stairs. Her mother wiping away tears when she thought Claire wasn't looking. Landlords talking over them with words like upgrade and better use of space. Claire had promised herself she would never be the one on the other side of that conversation. Yet here she was, holding the power to do exactly that to Jordan and Mia. That night, she sat at her kitchen counter, River Lane files spread out. She traced lot numbers with trembling fingers. Every page felt heavier than it should. Her phone buzzed. Jordan. Hey. Mia keeps asking when the lady from the rain is coming back. No pressure or anything. She stared at the message. She could ghost him. She could keep everything professional, cold, sign the contract, pretend she didn't know how the story ended for people like him, or she could do something harder. Claire picked up her pen and pulled out a blank sheet of paper. She started to sketch. Not just a sleek flagship, but something else. Something messier, braver. A building that wrapped around the garage, not over it. Lumi home on the upper floors. Jordan's garage staying exactly where it was, still alive, still his. If she pitched this, investors would call her sentimental, naive. But looking at the picture, she felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. The storm hit the city again the day everything blew up. Kevin dragged her down to River Lane, anger simmering off him. We're losing time, he snapped. Investors are breathing down my neck. Why are you hesitating? The rain turned the street into a mirror. Lights, puddles, reflections of a future that might not include any of this. They reached the garage. Jordan looked up from under a car hood, wiping sweat off his forehead. Mia sat on a stool nearby, sketching something with intense focus. Hey, Jordan said slowly, cautious. Didn't know you were coming by today. Claire opened her mouth, but Kevin stepped ahead of her. Mr. Cole, he said, too smooth. You understand what's happening with this block, right? Jordan's expression shifted. He stood, tall and steady, that quiet gravity settling over him again. I understand somebody wants what little I got, he said. Yeah, I understand. Mia looked between them, sensing the tension, her grip on her pencil tightening. Kevin thrust a folder toward Claire. Tell him, he said. Tell him who's buying this place. At least give the man honesty. It felt like a slap. Claire's throat burned. "We're the ones," she said finally. "Lumi Home. My company. We're the buyers." Silence dropped like a weight. The garage, the rain, the whole street seemed to hold its breath. Jordan blinked once. Twice. He looked at her like he was trying to reconcile two images that did not fit. The woman who laughed over coffee with him, and the woman holding the papers that could erase his home. "You?" he said, voice low. "Your company?" "Jordan, she started. "How long have you known?" he asked. She swallowed. "Since the day I came up to your loft," she admitted, "when my papers fell out. I saw the address. I've been trying to find another way." Kevin scoffed. "Another way that doesn't make us look bad on Instagram," he muttered. "Come on, Claire. This is business. He'll get a payout. He'll find another garage." Mia stood up, small shoulders tense. "Another house?" she asked, voice shaking. "Like, move again?" Jordan's jaw clenched. He crouched beside her. "Hey," he murmured. "It's okay, baby." Mia's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. She turned to Claire, pleading. "Please don't take our house," she whispered. The words shattered something inside Claire. Jordan stood slowly, facing her fully now. "When Naomi was in the hospital," he said, voice oddly calm, "I promised her I'd give Mia at least one thing we never had growing up. One home. One place that didn't change because someone richer wanted it. That's why I keep this place going. That's why I work until my hands don't feel like hands anymore." He took a step forward, the rain blowing in around him. "And now I'm standing here," he continued, "looking at the woman I actually started to trust, holding the papers that say I failed." Claire's eyes stung. "I'm not trying to destroy your life," she whispered. "I swear I'm not. My company is on the line. If I don't sign, we lose our funding, our team, everything. I've been fighting them to keep your garage, to build around it." Kevin cut in, exasperated. "That design is a fantasy," he snapped. "No investor's going to prefer less retail space just to save one sentimental garage run by a single dad with no leverage." The phrase hung in the air. A single dad with no leverage. Jordan absorbed it like another bruise. His shoulders straightened. He looked at Claire, eyes bright with hurt. "I'm a black single dad in a city that already decided I don't belong here unless I'm fixing their engines," he said quietly. "My leverage is this." He gestured to the garage, the loft above. "These four walls, this roof, my daughter's drawings on that fridge. I don't have much, Claire. But this is all I got." His voice cracked on the last word. Rain hammered on the metal roof, loud and relentless. Claire stepped closer, her own hands shaking. "I know you don't have a reason to believe me right now," she said, "but I have a plan that keeps your garage. I just need the investors to hear it. I need time." Kevin threw up his hands. "Time we don't have," he said. "If you won't sign, I'll go over your head. The board can approve it without you." Mia's small hand slipped into her father's. "Daddy," she whispered, "are we losing our house?" Jordan's composure finally cracked. His eyes shone with tears he refused to let fall in front of her. He looked back at Claire, voice raw. "I promised Naomi," he said. "I promised I wouldn't let anyone take this from Mia. And right now, you're standing there with the power to prove me a liar." He took the folder from Kevin's hand, opened it, scanning the pages until he reached the signature line. Then he looked up at her. "If you sign this contract," he said, the same words that would echo weeks later, "my garage, my wife's memory, my kid's home, everything is gone. If you don't, 200 of your people lose their jobs. So tell me, Claire, who do you let burn first?" No one spoke. Mia's quiet sobbing was the only sound under the roar of the rain. Claire had never wanted to run from a room more than she did in that moment. Instead, she stepped back, tears spilling over. "I won't sign it," she said hoarsely. "Not like this. Not without fighting for a different way." Kevin swore under his breath. He snatched the folder back. "You're making a mistake," he snapped. "We'll see how noble you feel when Lumihome is gone." He stormed out into the storm, disappearing down the lane. Jordan and Claire stood facing each other across the concrete floor. He looked exhausted, furious, betrayed. "Jordan," she began. He shook his head, jaw tight. "Go," he said quietly. "Please, I can't look at you right now." The words cut deeper than he could have known. Claire nodded, swallowing a sob. She glanced at Mia, whose eyes were red and wide. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Both of you. I am so sorry." She stepped backward into the rain, letting it hide her tears as she walked away. The days after that blurred. Lumihome's investors called, emailed, demanded. Kevin pushed for a vote to move forward with the original River Lane plan without her consent. The board scheduled a meeting, the kind with sharp suits and colder smiles. Claire arrived at the office that morning with almost nothing left to lose. In her bag were two things: her father's measuring stick and a big, messy presentation she'd stayed up all night preparing. She walked into the boardroom with a steadiness she did not feel. "Our original flagship design is wrong," she said, without preamble, plugging in her laptop. "It looks great on a deck. It fails real people." She clicked, slide after slide. Not just renderings, but photos of River Lane. The aunties selling snacks, the uncles playing chess on plastic stools, the garage with its rusty sign and the little girl's drawings on the walls. She told them Jordan's story, not as a sob story, but as proof. "People are tired of brands that tear down what was there before," she said. "They want companies that build with, not over. We say Lumihome is about belonging. This is our chance to prove those aren't just words." She clicked to the new concept, Lumihome X Coal Garage. The design wrapped around the existing structure. The garage stayed on the ground floor, upgraded but familiar. Lumihome occupied the upper floors, all glass and greenery and light. Walkways connected them. Shared spaces blurred the line between store and community. "This is a story investors can't buy from anyone else," she said. "A single black father fighting to keep his daughter's home, and a design brand choosing to stand with him, not over him. You think the press won't eat that up? You think people won't show up for that launch?" There was silence when she finished. Then a voice from the end of the table. "And if Mr. Cole refuses?" one investor asked. "If he doesn't want to be your poster child?" Claire smiled faintly. "Then we respect that," she said. "And we walk away from River Lane entirely." Shocked murmurs. Kevin looked like she'd slapped him. "Have you lost your mind?" he hissed. "I lost my home once," she replied, calm. "I'm not going to be the reason someone else does if I can help it." The oldest investor, a woman who had been quiet the whole time, tapped her pen. "What if he says yes?" she asked. "What exactly are you proposing?" Claire took a breath. "We offer him a partnership," she said. "Reduced rent, a share of the traffic and revenue his garage will help generate. We help renovate his space, bring it up to code, tell his story alongside ours. We build a flagship that actually means something." The room went still. Then, slowly, the woman nodded. "This might just be crazy enough to work," she said. One by one, hands went up. The pitch passed, with conditions, revisions, numbers that made Claire's head spin. But the core remained. No garage. No deal. She walked out of that room feeling like she'd just stepped off a cliff and discovered a bridge halfway down. Jordan didn't open the door when she knocked that evening. She could hear Mia's footsteps, then the creak of the floorboards, then silence. "Jordan," she called softly. It's me. I know I'm probably the last person you want to see right now, but I need 5 minutes. If you still want me gone after that, I'll leave. The door stayed shut. A minute stretched. 2. Then the lock clicked. The door opened a crack. Jordan's face appeared, eyes guarded. "You got 4, he said. "I'm tired." She nodded, clutching her bag. "I went to the board today," she said. "I told them I wouldn't sign the River Lane deal without your garage staying exactly where it is." He snorted, disbelieving. "And they said, 'Sure, Claire, that's fine. We love losing money?'" he asked. She pulled out her laptop, hands shaking slightly. "Can I show you something?" she asked. He hesitated, then stepped aside. Inside, Mia stood on the stairs, half hidden, arms wrapped around her stuffed bear. Claire set the laptop on the coffee table and opened the file. Up came the new design, Jordan's garage, center stage, with Lumi Home growing up and around it like a tree built on deep roots. She showed him the terms: reduced rent, shared profits, renovation help. His name on the building, his story in their marketing, not as a prop, but as a partner. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," she said quietly. "I am asking you to let me stand next to you instead of across from you. If you say no, we walk away from River Lane. I mean that." Jordan studied the screen like it was a foreign language. Mia crept down the stairs, peering over his shoulder. On the rendering, there were tiny figures drawn in front of the garage. A big one, a small one, and another small one with long hair. "It looks like my drawing," she whispered. Claire blinked. "Your what?" she asked. Mia hurried to the table and pulled out her notebook, flipping until she found the page. 3 stick figures stood in front of a building with a garage downstairs and windows upstairs. Underneath, in shaky handwriting, it said, "Our home." She had added something new since Claire last saw it, a third figure, holding hands with the other 2. "That's you," Mia said shyly, tapping the third figure. If you want." Jordan's shoulders slumped. He looked at his daughter, at the drawing, at the woman who now looked as tired and scared as he felt. "You really told them no deal without the garage?" he asked, voice low. She nodded. "I was ready to lose the company over it," she said. "I still might. But I'd rather start over than build on top of someone else's broken promise." The room was quiet except for the hum of the fridge. Finally, Jordan blew out a breath. "Do you have any idea," he said slowly, "how exhausting it is to always be the one who gets pushed out? The black guy with the small business, the single dad who's inspirational until he becomes an inconvenience?" "I can guess," she said, "but I'll never fully know. Which is why I need you to tell me when I'm getting it wrong. And I need you to believe that at least this time, I'm trying to get it right." He studied her face, searching for the catch. He didn't find one. Instead, he found that same woman from the cafe, fingers wrapped around a coffee mug, talking about building places where people could belong. He looked at Mia, who was watching both of them with wide, hopeful eyes. He thought of Naomi, of the promise he'd made. Keeping a home wasn't just about protecting walls. Sometimes it was about choosing who you let inside. Jordan straightened and held out his grease-stained hand. "You're sure about this?" he asked. "Because if we do this, we're in it together. This becomes our fight, our building, our story. And I come with a lot of baggage." Claire smiled, tears shining. "I'm not afraid of baggage," she said. "I've been carrying mine alone for a long time." She took his hand. It was warm, solid, real. Mia grinned. "So, does that mean Daddy's not getting stolen?" she asked. Jordan laughed, a sound that surprised even him. "Nah," he said, pulling her into a hug with his free arm. "We're just expanding the family." A year later, River Lane looked different. The shophouse row had been restored instead of erased. Lumi Home's glass-fronted showroom glowed on the upper level, filled with plants, warm lights, and furniture that looked like it wanted to be lived on, not just photographed. Below, the garage sign had been carefully repainted. Jordan and Naomi Garage. And under it, in smaller, newly added letters, and MIA. At the far corner of the sign, almost playful, a small metal plate read, "In partnership with Lumi Home." On opening night, the street was packed. Journalists, influencers, regulars from the neighborhood, curious strangers drawn by the story that had been quietly spreading online. The design brand that chose not to evict, the black single dad mechanic they decided to build with instead. Mia ran around in a little dress and sparkly sneakers, proudly announcing to anyone who would listen, "That's my daddy's garage, and that's our house upstairs, and that's Claire's pretty stuff." Inside the showroom, Claire stood by the window, watching Jordan talk to a group of guests who wanted to know about his engines, his story, his life. He looked comfortable for once, in the center of attention. Still in his work boots, still himself. Just more at ease in his own skin. He caught her watching and grinned. She felt something warm settle in her chest. Later, when the crowd thinned, they ended up on the balcony outside the loft. Just the three of them. The rain had started again, soft and forgiving, tapping on the metal roof like an old friend. Jordan leaned against the railing, looking out over the lane. "Did you ever think," he said softly, "that a broken-down car on a bridge would lead to all this?" Claire shook her head. "I almost bailed on that date," she admitted. "I thought I didn't have space in my life for anyone else." He glanced at her. "You still think that?" he asked. She stepped closer, sliding her fingers between his. "Turns out," she said, "I had room for two." Mia squeezed between them, wrapping an arm around each of their waists. "For three," she corrected. They laughed, pulled together by small arms and bigger feelings. Inside, the showroom lights glowed like a beacon. Below, the garage stood solid, every bolt and board and stain a piece of the story that got them here. Rain whispered around them. The city hummed. The sign outside creaked gently in the wind, stubborn and steady. For the first time in a very long time, Jordan felt like the ground under his feet wasn't waiting to vanish. This wasn't just a space he was renting from someone else's mercy. This was their place, their risk, their home. If you're listening to this and some part of you remembers what it felt like to be afraid of losing your home, whatever home means to you, know this: you're not alone. And if you want, you can leave a few words for Jordan, Claire, and Mia, or for the version of yourself that's still standing in the rain, wondering if anyone will ever choose to build with you, not over you.